Okay, Ramblers, let's get rambling.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
Some dumb guy. Buddy sleeping on the couch. Welcome to another episode of Some Dumb RV Living. Next project in the wings. This wall. It's a lovely wall, isn't it? It's tall. It needs more than this chaos. It needs some floor-to-ceiling shelving. And it also needs a new switch. This is a switch for my ceiling fan. It will be nestled behind the shelving unit that I'm going to build. I'm going to have to cut a hole in the back of it to access the switch through the shelf because I just don't want to lose that usable space. So I'm going to pop this thing out and I'm going to replace it with a black one that will blend in and not stick out so much. Now, interesting aspect of these RV manufacturing sometimes, cover plate just clicks in. Switch is enclosed and mounted to the wall directly. But look at these holes that they cut. I don't know if you can see that at a distance. Let's zoom in. Whee! Yeah, you see that? That is all kinds of ugly, but they don't care because it's hidden away, right? So I have to remove the switch, square out the hole, and depending on the depth, either put a shallow box in there, which looks like it might fit, or worst case scenario, I will put a low voltage box or ring in there. I've never been too terribly concerned with enclosing it in a box, in a wall, in an interior wall, not even an exterior wall. Floor to ceiling, well, that's going to get filled up. So that Vevor box that you're seeing right there includes one shelving unit. It's a 5-foot unit. I've gone over this before, but for people who didn't watch. It's a 5-foot unit. It'll go right around to where that switch is, a hair higher. About 2 of them. I'm going to put the top half of the second one on top of the full unit that I'm going to put there, which will take me just a hair under the 8-foot ceiling threshold. The bottom half, excuse me, see, this is all the in-progress stuff we've got going on, but the bottom half is already built and set up down behind all the nonsense. But we're hoping the capacity that this unit will give me, not only will it allow me to get the rest of my TV shelved up to join what I did last night, which is up in that corner, but a lot of my movies as well, which are all these boxes, both those totes, new stuff coming in from Amazon and Groove and Deep Discount. Oh, we got all these unboxings to do that we can't because we don't really have much in the way of a decent recording setup right now. I'm hard enough time just managing my Some Dumb Watch episodes in this kind of environment. I like it. Change of plans. This thing is going to get crazy weird, so I ditched the shallow box. It wasn't working for fitting all the wires inside. I ditched it, went with the low voltage ring. The clamps didn't want to work on this panel. So, fortunately, I still had a little bit of scrap paneling left over from my last project. You might be a redneck if you cut extra paneling, little pieces, squares, and you glue them to the back side of the hole so the clamps come down. They have enough material left to clamp and secure, because without it, the ring was just flopping around in there. It's made for drywall, some thicker material. Got this little 1/8" paneling, or maybe it ain't very thick, you know what I'm saying? No, okay. So we just got that secured. We're moving on. What do you think? Look better? I think so. Even if I weren't going to put the shelving unit there, I think I'd rather have a black switch. I have other switches around the place that I'll be switching out the black ones, probably with lit on-off indicators. Hey, sugar. Let's build some shelf. So I'm still plugging away on this. I've got bottom half of the bottom and most of the top half of the bottom unit. This is the complete unit where we're switching out this piece here. So instead of putting the top cap on, I'm putting what would be the dividing piece here for the second unit. Took that off and I'm putting that on the first unit so that I can then stack the top half of the second unit on here. Now, of course, things aren't going to be uniformly manufactured as I was really hoping they would be. Got a mix of holes here. These two bigger flanged holes, screws go in from the underside up into the shelves above it, or the uprights above it. Okay, cool. Those are basically not going to be too terribly impacted. I will have to drill new holes into the uprights to match those up. Fine, not a big deal there. The bigger deal basically is right here. So again, those two holes, screws go in to go up into the uprights. Great. It's this hole here, which would take a dowel pin that's going to have to be relocated, and this pin here, this hole and this hole here, which are different size, a little bit narrower, are pre-drilled for connector bolts, which are also going to be relocated because the connector bolt holes for this one are slightly offset. So the idea here is 1, 2, 3 holes here is I will drill those out to 1/4 inch and glue in a dowel pin. Once it's dry, I will cut off the excess flush, and then I will use dowel centers coming up out of here, which that hole looks close enough to 1/4 inch in diameter. I think work can accept those. Put them in there to mark the holes where I need to drill for the connector bolts to readjust these two guys in place. Great, because unfortunately these two don't line up with that, so there's not going to be any interference there. And then likewise, I will re-drill for another dowel pin to set into this. Although this, yeah, see this board right there, it's got a hole in the middle for a dowel pin. So again, we'll use the dowel center to mark the new location. So 3 holes drilled here, 2, and then another 3 there. And that's the modifications that need to be made to get this board in place. But once those are all drilled, then I gotta use this as the base for the extra parts for the next level, because those gotta be installed first. The screws gotta go in. That's where I goofed up on here. The screws have to go up into these uprights before it can be attached to the bottom ones. So I already had that framed in, ready to go, and I realized I couldn't attach these because the holes were not getting. So I popped that back off, run the screws in, and then set it down, which totally fine. The instructions were not as clear. Well, they weren't unclear. I was just working out of step, out of not putting it together in the order in which they were, asking for. So that was my issue. Hi, there's Buddy. Hey, Buddy. Buddy boy, what you doing? Hi. Yeah, hi. Anyway, so that's where we're going to be at. Not exactly an overwhelming success here, particularly on the sanding front, unfortunately, but drilled out, glued in dowel pins, let them dry, cut them as flush as I possibly could, and like as you can see, my complication was in sanding. I should have tried to get a narrow piece of wood and a piece of sandpaper over it to keep it in line with the uprights, because stuff like this right here is going to show maybe a little bit here, and make this a little bit coming around with I was using my hacksaw with the blade at a 45-degree angle. So I can hope some of this will tuck away, maybe. Not hugely optimistic at this point, but this isn't locked in or anything, so it's not going to be a true measure. But yeah, so see that spot there? There's a lot of glare here, I understand. Yeah, see that problem area right there. I'm going to have to try to figure out something to dress these up, but yeah. Got a mock-up set up so far. My dowel centers here, looks like that's going to work. I have 4 of them. I wish I had more and do all at least the 2 ends side by side at the same time, because getting this thing positioned properly is going to be fun, but I think I can pull it off. If I can get this board lined up the way it needs to be, press down on it, it's going to give me my indentations. Hopefully they're intense and obvious enough that I can mark them, then drill out my holes, get my dowel pin in the center and my 2 connector bolts in there, and get them at least loosely, if not locked into place on this board. Then I can move over to this side on this end and do likewise. And once the left and right outward sides are done, I think it'll help alignment-wise. But it's not just the left and right. I have to make sure that the back is as flush as I can make it. Not that these things are always perfection anyway from the factory, because even putting these things together the way that they're manufactured, you still have, I don't know if you can see that, a little bit of a jutting out right there. So we move on. might be in the boat for the same kind of labor to adapt it. The holes are not going to line up at all. And that kind of stinks. The things we go through in my world to make them what I want them to be. I thought I was going to finish this thing tonight. It's 10 o'clock. I don't think so, Tim. Well, in typical fashion, I got the framework of this one put together. So, in theory, and in practice, I can go and slap it on top of this bad boy. I should unplug my cord there. My battery died, so I didn't get to record everything. I can slap it on top of there, and then I can attach the backing and have a complete unit. And that's what I'm going to do. But in true fashion, as I was going to say, long story short, short story long, I still need to cut a hole in the back for the fan switch here. Well, progress being made. We're coming along. Everything is secured together. Got to pull it out, put that top portion of backing on, and then look to peel down the top half of the middle section of backing so I can deal with that switch situation. Because I've got a little bit of carpeting here, bare floor here, there's a height differential. I want this thing to be solid. It's also going to be secured to the wall up on top there, but I need this thing to be solid because it's going to be loaded with movies and television, and there's going to be a lot of weight there, and make sure that it's stable and secure. So I need to build up some material to get a level platform from the end of that carpet all the way across. And I need to secure the wall mounts to the top panel there. I've got to peel off the stickers from the panel identifications. And yeah, we're getting there. We are getting there. How about an update? This is where we're at right now. Hoping to get finished tonight. So I have the entire backer panel installed. Every level, everything is all basically assembled on this. I have the spot marked where I'm going to cut my hole for the fan wall switch. That's going to get cut in very shortly here. And you're seeing all these clamps. And the reason for that, down here we've got a bit of quarter round along the floor to the wall. It's going to keep the thing spaced out, as well as this receptacle where I have two flat mount extensions. I guess for that backlit term, outlet extensions. This one here is multi 12, 120 volt, 110, whatever, and a couple USB ports. That's going to mount on the side here, so I don't lose access to that receptacle. There's another one that runs back and behind. That's going to go behind my couch, just for extra access. So between that and the quarter round, I can't sit flush against the wall, even cutting around that switch, right? So I have ripped a piece of 1x2x8 down to a 5/8 inch thickness, and I've just slap-shottedly wrapped it with some contact paper, some black contact paper, which isn't holding up too well. Glued it, and I would clamp it along here, because once this thing is slid over against the wall, I don't want to have that big gap. And when I secure it from the top to the wall with little enclosed L brackets, which are right there, kind of see it, right there. What I don't want is any kind of wiggliness there. I want this thing to sit solidly, and then I've glued little 3 blocks to that side. I don't need to worry about dressing it up because that's not going to be visible, but this side is. So the idea is once this is all clamped in place and secured, that you basically see at least a semi-decent black surface rather than a big cavity gap. So, well, that's drying before it gets too late. I'll make some noise. I'm going to get my oscillating tool out. I think my marks should be somewhere around here. I've got 2 notches. I'm going to go up from this seam. I think it's 3 1/8 inches straight up and then over. I'm going to trace that out so I can cut into that, and hopefully that'll be clean and we'll be happy. Once that's marked and my glue's relatively dry, I can slide this against the wall, secure the 2 brackets up on top, which I can't see from this side. I think, oh, there's one, and there's the other one. Yeah, and then they'll be stabilized. Had some really heavy-duty cardboard that came framed for a, I think it was a boxed shed that I had shipped to me, and it held the box's rigidity along the sides. Cut down some strips because the slide out here, carpet is raised a little bit, and then there's a little raised lip too. So I needed to bring this level floor up as evenly as I could possibly, because I wanted to support the weight of this thing. It's going to be fairly heavy once it's locked and loaded with movies and TV shows. I needed a good level solid surface for it to sit on, and as equal support as I could provide for the uprights. I think I've provided that. So again, once the glue's dry, we're going to go ahead and get that slid over. I'm not going to secure it to the wall until I load up from the bottom up, maybe at least the bottom third. There'll be enough weight to get it stabilized and settled where it wants to be, and then I will go ahead and lock it in and put some more weight into it. I just didn't feel it would be appropriate to secure it completely if there's going to be any kind of, I don't know, flexing or settling done, you know, once the weight starts going into it. We're back in portrait mode. Backing is secure, hole is cut for the switch, shimmed up on the bottom of the platform, everything's lined up. A little spacer, glue's still a little tad bit wet on the edge there, so you can still see a little bit of white until it fully cures. It's going up. Again, we're not secured to the wall yet, so there's some wiggle. The thing's going to drive me nuts, and I can't tell for sure if it's just a shoddy manufacturing deal from the shelving unit itself, or my less than professional modifications of it, or if it's an RV issue, because these things are made weird. It might be hard to see on camera. See that little bit of trim there? Follow it up along the edge there. It gets wider as we go up. There's no real amount of leaning I've been able to do to get that sucker lined up equally. So I thought, well, maybe that was neat. But then I started looking. I know when I still had this back panel on loose, there was an issue going on here. I was hoping once it's secured to the wall, it'll fix it. This side is far closer to the wall than that side, particularly if you go up. Now, if you look, the wood trim of the slide out, you can basically see here, is pretty well even with the front of the shelving unit. if I take that back, top area, and I push up against the wall where it's going to get secured, it does the same thing as it does over here. It gets wider, 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 wider as you go up. You know, and this panel has these, I can't really see them on camera because they're back here, these vertical grooves routed into them. And those become far more visible once this thing, look at this. That's against the wall. So you see that groove, and it just slowly disappears. You know, and like I said, with this thing here, you see there's a plastic corner trim, you see a little bit of the painted wall there, and you further go down, 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 it just shrinks up. So there's no way to kind of go whoop and whoop until everything line up. And you get this line to go vertical and line up there, then things are pushed funny out here, you push that against there, and then that gets all crooked. RVs are never manufactured to be perfectly squared up, I'm sorry to say. And cheap Chinese furniture, well, you know how that goes too. And then like I said, I made some modifications to it, right? So instead of this being the top piece, instead it's a divider piece. And then there's a bottom of a second unit, which is this piece right here, all over again, and then with a top screwed into it. So, you know, I did my thing, they did their thing, and together we did things. But like I said, I'm going to load up at least the bottom third, if not the bottom half, before I secure this thing to the wall, get some weight on it, get it stabilized and settled. Let's load. How's this? I just realized I got more storage space up on top there. I didn't utilize it all. We are finished with this particular project. We've got a nice roundabout corner of the home, the living room, of film and television. Yay! It is secured to the wall. It is filled. Movies, TV, all the way down. We've got a receptacle extender mounted to the side there, so I've got several outlets and USB ports that are accessible, not lost. And thank you, everybody, for joining me on this journey that, you know, was exciting. There will be more. There is always more. I still have a chaotic corner over on this side, and with any luck, that will be, again, the next process of organization this afternoon. So thank you once again for joining me. I am forever grateful for all the presents and the views and the comments and all that good stuff for each of you, and look forward to your participation on the next one. Bye-bye.
Alan.